So, hello again. I was not going to be doing another one of these for a while. I thought I'd give everybody a rest. But interestingly enough, I heard from some people in New York, some dancers that have been following along, and a couple of other people I respect, that I should probably continue this little experiment. I'm not sure if it's doing any good in my quest, but it may be interesting to some people. So some of the questions I've still been getting about repertory and about what I would like to do, I think I've answered most of those. But there was a question about why do I feel? Don't you love the basketball player behind me here? Why do I feel that the New York City Ballet, Balanchine, and School of American Ballet, why do I feel they're so important? And why am I kind of so dogmatic about retaining the Balanchine aesthetic and his ballets and his teaching style, etc.? I think because I really believe that the arts, our civilization, wars can come and go, political parties rise and fall, empires rise and fall, but the arts kind of define that civilization. And to keep it to what we're speaking about, the dance arts in America, the ballet arts has largely been defined by Balanchine. Whether you think he's the greatest choreographer that ever lived, or whether you think he's even the greatest one of the 20th century, his value and his amount of work and his impact can't be denied. I think we're all lucky, especially New Yorkers, that he decided to come to America when he did, when he was 29 years old, that his first thought was to establish a school, which is over 80 years old now, that has been turning out dancers for companies all over the world consistently. I think there's an enormous value in all this because in the ballet world, as small as it may be, he's a giant. And we are very lucky, those of us that worked for him personally, of course, but anybody that's come in close proximity to somebody of that stature has got to be affected. I was very affected because he became my father figure, which I think is pretty obvious to everybody. But even without all that, his ballets are the ballets that everybody builds upon, even if they don't know it. Every young choreographer has built upon what Balanchine did, even in the modern dance field. Billy Forsythe, of course, admits it. Most choreographers admit it. So the reason that the New York City Ballet is so important and the new directorship is crucial is to continue as close as possible to the ideals and the values that Balanchine left. It's not just a question of respecting the choreography. It's a question of respecting the whole thing. I'm not sure if I'm making myself clear, but it's important because if you allow a degeneration, it'll degenerate anyway with time, but if you allow a degeneration so soon, given all the people that still work for him that are around, given the videos that were done when he was alive and overseeing them, giving the fantastic school that had teachers that he personally picked, it would be a real tragedy to kind of just piss that away, either to be politically correct or not aware of what one would be missing. And it's not just a question of bringing in dancers that worked for him to coach the ballets. I think that's a great idea, of course. I would do that, obviously. But that's one part of the puzzle. The other part of the puzzle is how do you retain the aesthetic? It's a good question. Now, I'm not holding myself up to be the only person that could do this. There are others. But not too many others. And that's just a fact. I'm not blowing my own horn here. It's just a fact. There are not that many of us left. Balanchine was involved with the lighting. He was involved with the decor. He was involved with the costumes. His greatest gift, besides the sheer choreography, was his teaching and how he could develop dancers and mold dancers. Now, this, of course, was his personal gift. And again, I'm not saying, other people can do this, but I think it is of prime importance to the New York City Ballet and the School of American Ballet that this lineage continue as closely as possible, because it's so easy to lose. It's fragile. And I don't think people, some people do. When I've gone to the performances relatively recently in New York, I've heard comments in the audience. And the comments have come from the oldest subscribers. And nothing can stay the same. You're not going to, and you don't want to have dancers looking like bad copies of Violette Verdi or Suzanne Farrell, etc. You want the dancers to be completely new and fresh. But the ambiance of how the ballets are presented even has changed. It's a very subtle thing, and it's hard to describe. It could come back in a second. It's not dead. It's not gone. And I've seen performances, recent ones, and I've seen videos of recent performances where it's spectacular, absolutely spectacular. The performances of some of the dancers, I won't name them, but some of the dancers have far excelled my generation and past generations. But there's a constant, let's put it this way, there's a constant need to stay on the ball. There's a constant need to keep an eye out, to make it as good as it can be. And so this is my worry about what the board of directors is going to do, because I just hope they understand we're not talking just about a ballet company here. We're not just talking about any ballet company. We're talking about the New York City Ballet, which was founded by Balanchine and Lincoln Kirstein to be Balanchine's vision of dance in America and a new vision for ballet. He reinvented it to a great deal based on American style, American energy. He loved the open spaces. He loved cowboys. He always wore a turquoise Indian bracelet, I think given to him by Maria Talchi's father. He had a great fascination with Broadway. I mean, he loved America. So he reformed the great Imperial Russian Ballet, which was his background, and the Diaghilev period, which developed him into a completely unique American style of ballet. And I've staged his ballets all over the world, and it's synonymous. Balanchine in America is synonymous to most people around the world involved with dance. And it's very, I keep using the word important, it's crucial that this not be pissed away. It's so easy to do that, and it's so easy to misunderstand. Balanchine used to say dancers are angels, come down to earth. And he believed that. He was a very spiritual man. He believed he had a higher calling. He didn't talk about it much to the dancers. He talked about it with me when we went out to dinner. He got drunk, and it all came out. But there's a bigger picture here than just sustaining a ballet company. Any ballet company can dance Balanchine ballets, and many dance them great, just as good as anybody. But they're not the New York City Ballet, and the New York City Ballet should always be preeminent with this Balanchine American style. And yes, we have new choreographers that are fantastic, and yes, more will come along, but the heart is the Balanchine repertory. And that's never going to get old as long as it's danced correctly. And it sets a very high bar, no pun intended. but it sets a very high bar for other choreographers to try to reach, which is healthy. It's great. And Serenade looks like Serenade all over the world. And that's a miracle, because Swan Lake doesn't look like Swan Lake, the same ballet all over the world. But basically Serenade, Concerto Barocco, all of his ballets look like Balanchine ballets, but they have to look better at the New York City Ballet. Balanchine actually never wanted other companies to dance his ballets as well as the New York City Ballet. That's why he allowed a lot of little changes in other companies, and he allowed stylistic differences. He didn't really care because his ego was such that he wanted the New York City Ballet to really be it, so that when they toured or when people came to see the company, they would see the real Balanchine. And I think it could stay like that. At least I hope it does, with whoever they choose. That's my concern. Signing off. Bye.